My name is Simon Doyle. I work for a company called Genesys, and we are a customer experience platform based primarily out of the United States, but we've got a presence all across the world, across all continents. We're about 6,500 people. My role is Principal User Experience Strategist. So basically, I design the future experiences that the companies are trying to create. Yeah, so I was in Galway for a year. I originally moved back from Australia in 2015. I joined a startup called AltaCloud, headed up by Barry O'Sullivan and Joe Smith and Dan Auer, with the co-founders. And we grew from a team of less than 10 to about 25. And then we were acquired by Genesys in 2018. And we went from a small group of 25, 26 people to 6,500 literally overnight. We're naturally remote work by nature quite often, given the spread of our organisation. So I've been doing this for 5 years now, working remotely. And given the role and the nature of my work, I have the ability to be able to do that. So the company were able to facilitate that for me. You know, I put forward the suggestion to Barry and Joe, and they said, look, let's give it 3 to 6 months and see how it happens. And what happened was we moved back down, and I made the agreement that I would go up to Galway once a week, stay overnight one night and work there 2 days. And it just evolved from there, and I had the perfect balance between meeting up with the team, building my own team out as well, but being able to take all of that work and all the discussions, the output of the discussions that we had, bring them back and work peacefully on them, and not getting pulled into random meetings just because I'm there. Working Listowel it's been a real, I think, a positive influence for me, my family. My mother's here, my in-laws are here as well, and we have that sort of sense of connection between our family as well. Obviously now with the technology that we currently have, we've got Zoom, we've got really fast broadband, and all the capabilities that enable us to keep connected with each other. You know, that's when you talk to people, when you're engaging with people around the town, there is a real sense of pride about the town in itself. And you know, that sense of community is really, really prevalent. And I think actually, not really trying to harp back to the pandemic again, but even walking the parks now and meeting people in the finer weather outside, there is that sense of connection with each other. And it's funny, you can always meet people, depending on what your routine is, you kind of meet the same people every day, and you kind of have those connections with them as well, and you kind of catch up with them. It depends, to be honest, it depends on what life stage that you're at. I think, you know, if you're in your 20s and you're kind of just coming from college and you're starting out in your career, go off, explore the world, go to the cities and bring all of the, that's hugely important, because when you have that experience over whatever amount of years that you have, when you bring it back, you're coming back more complete as a person, and also with more to offer your community due to the influences that you've gained and the experiences that you've gained from moving away. So I found that, you know, I lived in Melbourne for 8 years, and a lot of what I picked up over there really still inspires and informs how I live today, and also I think helps influence other people and sort of just sharing experience and knowledge. There's a pace of life that really appeals to me. I've got 2 young boys, and we've got a sense of community, I think, you know, and familiarity with those around us. It's a really nice town just to live in as well, and there's a nice balance of amenities as well as, I think, infrastructure to support our lifestyle. You know, we've been there and we've done that in terms of moving abroad, living in the big cities, and wouldn't change any of it. There's 64 voluntary organisations, or 65, something like that, an inordinate amount of voluntary organisations that are dedicated to this community, from tidy towns and other kind of elements like that as well. And I think it shows the character of the place as well. And even when, back in the day, a long time ago, when I was in college, I used to be really proud to bring friends down here, because the place would be vibrant, and you know, my friends, they still talk about the trips that they've made down, you know, and the fun that they had down here. And it's kind of this there's nothing obvious about it in terms of when you think about Killarney, Kenmare, places like that. It's obvious, you've got that spectacular scenery and it's marketed towards that. But I think Listowel really has this intangible quality that resonates with people when they come here. and it is about personality and character and being yourself. I'm a fisherman, so the Knights of Kerry, out in the Woodford Road, literally a 5-minute drive from here. There's an old, I think it's a 16th century castle, there's a beautiful cobbled beach down there, and it's great salmon fishing there. Killicrim Angling Club I'm a member of Listowel Angling Club as well. So the river for me is the place for me to go to unwind. I also go out to Ballybunion, out to the Cashin, and I fish for sea bass there. Don't really catch that many anymore, I used to. Banna Beach, hadn't been for a long time, and I'd completely forgotten just how amazing that place is. Just looking over at Dingle Peninsula, the Maharees, you've got Casements Rock and then Ballyhike, so you've got that whole vista in front of you as well, and on a warm summer's day, whenever you get them, there's no better place. Just do it. If you're locked up in an apartment, you have a limited amount of space. I think here, one thing that just popped into my mind here is, you know, there's room to breathe here. Well, from a work perspective, it's a great amenity to have my own private office. I've been able to safely access it all through the pandemic. It gives me that space. You know, working from home is wonderful, but when the kids are at home after 2 o'clock at school and creche, it can get a little bit crazy. And they're still of an age at the moment where they like to stick their head in, and you know, and it's great. It's easy to manage it, and there's no issues, but can kind of disrupt the flow a little bit when they're running up and down. So it's nice to have that sense of purpose that, you know, I do work remotely, I do technically, you know, it's kind of work from home, but it's nice to have a destination to go to. I think the way you'd want to look at it is, you know, yes, we have these hubs that facilitate work, but also it connects us to the community, and it gives us the opportunity to become better versions of ourselves, because we're living and working on our terms, and I think that's hugely important. And I think the way life is going at the moment, it's more about living and working on your own terms. We live in a connected world. You know, my team. Essentially, I report into the VP of User Experience Design. He's based in Austin, Texas. My colleagues are based as far-flung as San Francisco, Austin, as I've just mentioned, Raleigh in North Carolina, and Indianapolis. I speak to people in Washington, I speak to people in Europe, and we've got teams in India as well. And the only challenge we face is time differences. But in terms of being able to connect with each other, there's no problem at all. My wife and I, we're music fans, and you know, before we had kids, we used to go to gigs quite a lot. You know, when we were living in Dublin, then we moved to Melbourne. Going to music venues was a big part of our lives. And when Aidan pulled together Mike the Pies and kind of transitioned it into the music venue, and I think he's done an amazing job keeping the same clientele, keeping that same feel, and being able to reposition it as something completely new and make it work is a real triumph in itself. But the quality of performers who come down here, and the intimacy of the venue, as well as the quality of the sound there as well, it leads to a great experience. So as much as we can, we get down there. There's another term that kind of sprung to mind is culturally curious. I think if there's anybody who embodied that, is probably Billy Keane, I would say. You know, but I think, you know, it's kind of there. It's like, who are you and where are you from? And, you know, and then the conversation starts from there.